Hello, hello and welcome. I'm Rama, live from this beautiful afternoon here in my little and gentle home in the northeast of Brazil, transmitting live in a very special day. You know, today, yesterday, today, doesn't matter really the exact astronomical moment, but the feeling of this moment is the equinox. The equinox is something special for me and special for maybe many traditions of the world, but in the eyes of the hegemonic culture, the culture that shares Disney Channel and Netflix, Equinox is maybe a third level news in the website. But today is very special for the people who lives and depends on the land. I'm talking about, in my own experience, people living in the high mountains of the Andes. You know, for them, this moment is a very pleasant moment in the southern part of Peru, in a specific spot in the middle of the mountains, in a very small place called Nación Pachamama, Nación Queros Nation. In this beautiful place, the people are in celebration. They call it Paucar Raimi, which is the celebration of abundance, the little Eden, the little paradise, where all the harvest is saved and guarded in the cellars, and and people are celebrating, waiting for the slowly incoming winter. The fields are full of flowers. That's why Paucar means flowering garden. It's this moment of beauty and celebration. And at the same time, equinox, literally that's the meaning of the word. It's an equilibrium. It's just in between the forces of expansion and contraction. For the Andean traditions, Pachamama and Taita Inti, the father and the mother, Taita Inti, the father, the son with the masculine force, Pachamama, feminine force. They are just playing together, loving each other. And in this moment, it's just the right amount of both energies, both uh, intentions, both qualities of energy in this moment. So it's called Pampa. Pampa means like a level ground. Maybe you have heard that word in a geographical field. It represents, maybe that's the most common name, Argentinian pampas, a very flat landscape. Well, that's one of the meanings, flat, leveled ground. But at the same time, it it means to forgive, because when we are able to forgive is because we are in the same level. That's a beautiful and poetic way to see it. To forgive is to perceive that we are in the same level. So that's the force of today. Gemma, hello. I think I know you somewhere. Uh, Clara as well. I know him. I know her quite a bit. So this is the energy of today. But today I want to introduce you. I want to seduce you. I want to take you by the hand to perceive the beauty of of a point of view. Like we live, I mentioned this just yet, the hegemonic cosmovision, the hegemonic culture, the hegemonic point of view, some global mixture of knowledge, explanation, language. I'm speaking in a language that I wasn't born with. That's why I have this strange accent. But I'm saying there's an hegemonic point of view. We more or less share some quite a bit of culture in the whole world right now. But there are people that grew up in a different language, in a different mythology, in a different way to explain what happens to them. Those people are very rich to perceive and to understand different ways to deal with reality. So reality is not just one. Everyone, even the hegemonic children, everyone have different ways of see reality. But what I'm talking about, this kind of reality is very away from us. These people, the people I met, the people I laughed and cried and play with, Keros Nation, they're different people. I mean, when you meet them, you see like children, but with faces that look old people. I mean, they are, some of them are old people, but they answer and look at you and play with you as children. There's a scent of innocence on 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 their communities, and they have a very specific point of view, a magical point of view. What I'm trying to say with this magical point of view, it sounds like a silly thing to say. Well, magic for them is to realize that everything, not just human beings, not just plants and insects and animals rambling around, but everything is alive. And everything is alive not just as a concept, but a real fact. Everything is alive and everything is trying to communicate each other. Like a big, for real community trying to talk each other how to live together. These people, these peasants, these farmers, they're they're living in a very high place, like 4,500 meters above sea level. So it's very high. Even to get there is difficult, not just in a practical way, because now I think 5 years from now they start to have they started to have ways to get there by car. When I went there 15 years ago, we had to walk or even ride horses to get there. Well, get there is difficult for me, or maybe for some of you, it's very high. You get a high altitude sickness, and not just that. The fact of living in that kind of environment shaped the way they relate with reality. In that place, they can't grow trees. They can just grow a few things, a few kind of plants, like just almost potatoes, some vegetables in a greenhouse. Just some of them they have greenhouses, but mainly potatoes, and they look after livestock, alpacas and llamas. So they cultivate some vegetables, they look after livestock, and they do something very special with the wool that they take from alpacas and llamas, very precious wool. They make threads and they weave. With this weaving activity, they create special kinds of fabrics. They call it magic fabrics because with them, they introduce themselves to, and I'm going to introduce something odd in this conversation, the spirits. They live surrounded by a spiritual world that is completely alive and is completely uh, connected. They establish a constant dialogue with spirits. That sounds like a fantastic movie for us. Well, for them, it is not. Those fabrics, sometimes they wear it in a symbolic way. Sometimes they are used for magical tools like this. For instance, this is called misa. It's a bundle where it's made of alpaca's wool with certain colors that are symbolic to specific messages. For instance, this is calling for Taita Inti. They have bells, rattles, well, magical tools for communicating. So they weave, literally, with their hands, they weave. One of the first times I went there, I went as a agricultural engineer from an NGO. I was sent to help them improve their fields and improve the quality of the livestock. And sometimes we have some projects on uh, improving their houses. Well, I was a young engineer going there. So I was the professional, I was the one who knew how to deal with things, and I was giving advices to the poor peasants. Well, just in the first encounter, I realized that there was something wrong with that idea. Especially when I met this woman. She's called Celestina. Celestina. How can you translate that? Like light blue, something related to the color because celeste means light blue. Well, Celestina was an old woman, and she was all alone in the middle of the field with a waving, I don't know if you can say, tool. It was very, very simple. It was just four sticks hammered in the ground, four sticks, and just some ropes and the thread and some sticks I remember clearly he was using a bone made of alpaca. I asked her. But the thing is, she was used to get some tourists to take pictures. So she was very serious. So I approached her, but I didn't have any camera. I just sat bes- be, beside beside her. I was just looking. So she kept going, doing her thing, very complex. Not for weaving in this quality. I don't know if you can see the quality. There are very specific symbols that they have it in their minds. It's like they memorize from childhood doing this all the shapes that they are making. It's called palyai, the different shapes and particularities of the fabric. So I was there just looking at her. She noticed me, but she didn't say anything. So she kept doing this for at least half an hour, and I just stayed there in silence. And at some moment, I knew some bit of Quechua, and I knew the word for help. So I said, Yanapay, like, can I help you? I wanted to say that, but I said just help. And she looked at me because she's surprised that I mentioned a Quechua word. And after a couple of minutes, she handed me some wool to make a little, say that like a round bead from a bunch of wool. Just make a um, I don't know how to say that, like little piece of wool, twisting. I think. Well, the thing is, I established this relationship with her silently. I didn't learn how to weave. It's very difficult. But I understood that these people were very wise, but without words. Later on, I met very profound and wise people, priests and priestesses, actually, healers, that with few words introduced me to a different kind of universe. A new universe that for me at that point was just like a fantastic world. But slowly, with years, with practices, with a lot of ignorant approaches, I just laughing how ignorant and maybe stupid for them, undelicate for them I was through the years to understand just a bit of how they stand in front of the world. The Andean traditions are very rich in the sense of relationship, like weaving. Weaving is the perfect metaphor. If you go to If you go to Cusco, for instance, you will realize that everywhere around, you will see different fabrics of colorful, contrasting fabrics, and you can see ponchos and you can see hats called chuyo, and a kind of aesthetics, very colorful and contrasting colors. Well, the fabric, the fabric is the perfect metaphor of the Andean tradition. It's a tradition that, as a philosophy, tries to develop constantly through weaving, not just literally, but weaving between people, weaving with other beings that share the landscape, weaving with the beings that are not easily seen, spirits. Everything is a weaving attitude because relationship is the core of Andean traditions. Constantly, we are trying to create something that is beautiful, and I found like a token, like a talisman. This word, intimacy. All the time, we create intimacy. That's how the Andean way stand with the world. We create intimacy with the other. And that puts us in a very specific and different position or of the hegemonic cosmovision, as I said. The hegemonic cosmovision is completely different. We come from a culture that is based on language, language as a tool of condensation, synthesis, and domain control of reality. We have to name things to make it real for us and to hold it, to hold things. I mean, sometimes in a in a literal way. We come from a culture that thinks that human beings are on top of the pyramid. We have a very specific way to deal with things. We grab things, we control things, we invade, we fight and try to win constantly in any confrontation. We come from a confrontational culture, belligerent. War is the way of uh, resolve things in our culture. So we are dualistic but confrontational. The Andean tradition perceives all the time the duality, but a duality that is all the time trying to correspond, to find a way to interweave, a way to connect, a way to create intimacy. So, the magic point of view of the Andean traditions are weaving relationships to belong. In the technical, in the technical hegemonical point of view, we go for domain, control, and hold. We individuals wants to become the center of the universe. So the Andean traditions are all the time in the poetry, in the language, which is a quite interesting and confusing language because it's polysemic. The Quechua language, it's full of meanings that are creating a web with different points of view, like a fabric, creating big fields of meaning. Uh, that emphasis in the relationship creates something extraordinary. As we create intimacy with others, we could start to perceive the delicate fabric of what is beyond the physical world. We obviously are based on something that we call as a religion science, and science is based on facts and concrete seeable, and something that could take you can touch and you can explain through words specifically. But obviously there's something else. Even science right now, it's just stepping into confusing stones as they go deeper and deeper in the knowledge. There are some spaces where the magical words intervenes, like well, the fractal theory on and the latest theories on how the world function. They start to get into magical explanations. Sounds like fantastic explanations. Like, for instance, the other day I was reading about dark energy of the universe. It sounds like science fiction or something like that. Well, uh, the Andean traditions, not just the Andean, well, many old traditions, people from the earth, living close to the earth, living close to the cycles, they were developing in a very delicate way a, a, a way of perceiving the subtle patterns of how the world deals with reality. You know, there's a beautiful, very beautiful image in the Andean philosophy, which is called Texi Muyu. Texi Muyu literally means the foundational circle. Literally, the foundational circle, and that goes. The meaning of it is how everything is interweave, like fabric, like everything that exists is intertwined, connected through this fabric that holds impulse and intent to be through everything that exists. You and me, in that point of view, we are expressions, like individualities of this fabric that we can't see with our eyes, but sometimes we can perceive it. Well, the other day, as I was reading that dark energy, it sounds like this. The explanation of this dark energy is like something that is as a fabric everywhere in the universe, holding everything more or less in place, more or less because everything is moving, everything is playing each other. It's a living fabric, but in some sense, it's holding. Well, if you say that to an Andean priest or priestesses, you will see that they will tell you, "Oh, Teximuyo." So everything is intertwined in this web of life, living each other and understanding each other. In that environment, high mountains, as I mentioned, life is difficult. Life it's not so easy to survive. Especially, it's not easy to survive alone. So naturally, you need to develop a way to understand the relationship with other human beings. So this is the ILU force. The ILU means the big community, the people and the beings who lives together in a place, in a time. And that gives you not just survivance, but something more beautiful and more important that they call alien causai, good living. We, as human beings, as expressions of this divine fabric of life, we are meant to live in a good living state. We are meant to come here. That's the goal of the Andean traditions. We are meant to be here enjoying each other, enjoying of the creation of the world. You know, there's a beautiful word in the Andes called Munai. Munai. Munai, again, as I said, it's a strange language. Every word has many meanings, sometimes a bit confusing, so you have to dig in to understand. Munai usually is translated as love, but as well, Munai means desire, something that you want, even in a psychological sense. Desire as the driving force to to try to get what you need, what you want, right? So that's Munai. But at the same time, Munai means mandate. Someone who, something, has a mandate when has the capability, the authority, and the authorization to do something, to guide. Munai in the Andean traditions is related to the heart. So the heart has the mandate, the authorization, the way to guide our actions, our desires. But in which direction? That's the last meaning of Munai, beauty. We are guided through our heart into actions and desires and wishes and dreams to explore and appreciate the beauty of existence. As life is giving us the opportunity through us to enjoy itself of the creation. When I say life, I'm going to use another word. Maybe you have heard of it, of this at some point. The word is Pachamama. And when I say Pachamama, instantly the image of Celestina, that old lady weaving in the middle of the fields, comes to me. You know, they have this beautiful prayer that the women uh, pray for the blessing of Pachamama, of the mother of existence. Pachamama is the mother of existence. Literally, you can translate like Mother Earth, but it's not just that. Pachamama, very complex word, relates to space and time and existence and cycles and uh, the physical world as well. So the mother of all that, the mother of existence, is that force. And This lady weaving in the fields makes me imagine that Pachamama, as an force of existence, is weaving all the time. This prayer says, Pachamama Sumagnuta, like Pachamama, my holy mother, you you make the thread as I do, you weave as I do, you cook as I do, so you nourish your children as I do, you give birth as I do. That prayer is what Pachamama means for the Andean traditions. A mother, the mother, and the force that intervene for us sometimes punish us. That's a very interesting thing because as as we as I been uh, deepening into the philosophy, spirituality, and specifically healing Andean traditions, I perceived that the spirits they have an ambivalent position. We ask for the blessings, we ask for their gifts and care, but at the same time we fear them. That's a very odd position in the sense of the hegemonic culture. We don't fear for the spirits. We fear, now, for some governments. We fear for other people. Obviously, in cities, violence is very common. We fear for our own health. We fear for death, but we don't fear for the spirit. Well, they have a very special relationship with this invisible landscape, invisible other world. This other world is not just intervening in our reality. They are all the time guiding us, pushing us, um, confronting us sometimes. I had this class this morning and we were talking about a specific illness that happens in the Andes. And we were making a bridge between how this literally is called bad wind, like some toxic wind, like spirit comes into your body. If I say that to you, maybe it could sound completely superstitious, right? Like fantastic thing, like child thing. Well, as I explained this morning, if we take that position, we are losing a quality of dealing with mental health. Literally, they described and created a whole way of dealing with mental health in a specific tools related to the healing practices. They are honestly completely interesting and well, at the beginning a bit fantastic, but then you realize that it makes completely sense. I was having difficulties in personal difficulties a few years ago when I was in these NGO projects, and I had a session with a shaman there, a Paco. That's the name of the healer or a shaman, or Pampa Misayok. So he took me to the mountain first in a very long walk. At that altitude, walking just a mile is a very exhausting exercise. So we went there to the base of this mountain called Wamanlipa, and when we got there, I was just in other state. Just for the walk, I was high because of that. Just for that, and this mountain, and this silence, and then he create with a piece of paper, with seeds, with leaves, with different shaped sweets, the most fascinating mandala, or like a painting. It was an offering. And in that offering, in a very delicate and very accurate way, he was trying to give a message to the spirit, and a specific message, a message from my difficulties, from my conflict. That could be explained by our way to explain, like, well, a symbolic act, blah, blah, blah. You can go on that explanation. But at that moment, I felt like a child, like a very small child, confronting this massive mountain in front of me, this uh, very silent healer. It's called Francisco. Uh, and after that offering, very simple gesture, very silent, few words. He burned that. We couldn't see it because that's part of the tradition. They burn the offering. We go out. I couldn't understand what we were doing, but I was just open to that. That night, I had a very vivid dream. Don't know why. I used to be a very rational person, very rational, very ordered, rational person. But from that moment, I realized that there's something mystery. There's some mystery there, and I've been realizing from that experience years ago, like 10 years ago, or even more, till now, that mystery is not important for me. It's important for the whole humanity to recover. The relationship with that mystery is not diminishing us, because that's the point of science. We want to understand, explain, and control the mystery, right? We explain things, we go deep into things to control them, to understand the mechanics of things, of life. I mean, we manage to control even the genetics. We can mix things. I mean, I I studied agricultural engineer, and I know that there's some techniques that you can mix human being with banana trees and know what could happen. But you know that that's the kind of tool the science could create. But living and accepting the mystery as a force that is there, it's at the same time guiding and giving us grace and fear, respect, maybe, if you look like that word. But actually, in the end, the fear is not just respect. That attitude confronting the mystery is not taking us out of understanding the world, but maybe it could give us a poetic point of view, like explaining through poetry. Maybe that's what we are in need right now, to relate to nature, not just in the sense of looking after nature in a sustainable way, but in a loving way, loving the mystery of the land, loving and trying to appreciate the, the gentleness of the wind and the beauty of the waves in the beach. Well, things that could be appreciated as we were children. Well, that's the invitation, in some sense, to come back to be children and play with the mystery. I've been doing that for quite a long time. I've been at the beginning giving and sharing this tradition in face to face courses. For some time now, giving online courses, but all these years I've been just being fascinated and in love of understanding different ways to get to the same thing, poetizing, poetizing the relationship with the invisible, with the mystery. So I hope you just uh, had enough patience to listen to me, and I would like to invite you. We're gonna start in the middle of April a new training. It's gonna be a long training. This is very different approach to the online courses or even the learning process. You know, for the Andean traditions, we need to have time. It's a slow pace learning way, slow. So you have to take time to digest, to take it through your own cycles, to understand the cycles of nature. You have to wait. You have to take time. So we're gonna start a 2 years training, and well, it's gonna end at the end of 2026, and we're going to play at the beginning with the philosophy and the point of view of the Andean traditions, and then a way to operate with it, which is the healing traditions. Philosophy, spirituality, and healing, they are the two hands. The two hands. One hand is a magical and practical and operative hand, which is the healing, and the other hand is the mystical, the spiritual, the philosophical hand. Both hands are intertwined, are playing together. So we are going to have a very, I think, exciting uh, pilgrimage through the months, and I'm going to invite you at the end of this training to go to with me to Peru and meet our masters, and maybe it sounds like impossible right now, but you know, life, it's surprising, should be surprising, otherwise why we are alive. uh, So this training, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna send you the link for this. Let me write. It's here. You can check some of the information there. It's in the chat. Well, it's going to be something. How can you say this? Intimate. You know, I I have this training with people for I think 10 months yet. We had class today, and even that there are people from England, people from Canada, US, France, what else? Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Australia, people from different parts of the world, but time and practice and poetry and art, which is the healing part, kind of art, make us feel intimate. And that's a very good feeling, a very pleasant feeling, even for an online course. So I hope you get interest on this. You can try to look into this website. And if you have any question, even related to the contribution, it's a very symbolic contribution, monthly paid, so it should be easy for anyone. But if you have an issue related to that, you can get in contact, and we always try to find a way to participate. That's the goal of it, to make all of you participate. So just reach us, and we will find a way to be together. So I hope you enjoy this, and we will always every month have this little conversation related to the Andean traditions. I hope you play with the threads and needles, and even weaving. Why not? So pleasant. The other day I was playing with my children. I have 4 daughters. We're playing on trying to, how to say that in English, like with needles and thread uh, weaving. It was so pleasant to play with your hands. The hands as not just a tool, but a way to express your soul. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation today. And well, we see each other every Wednesday. We have an open class. I forgot to say that. Every Wednesday, we have a free open class on Kai, which is Andean yoga, a way to understand or explore, maybe understand, no, explore the the Andean way with with your body. So every Wednesday at it's 10 a.m. PDT, 1 p.m. EDT, and 6 p.m. CET. We're gonna be online, live on YouTube in this same channel. So thank you for being there. Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Clara Luz. It's late there. So a big hug from my heart to your heart. Urpi chai sonko chai. That means the dove from my heart flies away to your heart. So thank you. Thank you. See you next time. Bye bye.